So we've already done this blend on the hood using Surface Fillet, but now I want to look at the large blend between the roof glass and the windscreen. So I'll bring back the surfaces, and I'll start by using the Surface Fillet again, and I'll build a G2 curvature fillet. And that's a bit small, so I'll increase that to maybe 1000. And one thing you'll notice is that we've got some isopalms on the surface. And in fact it has 4 spans. And that's because the fillet tool trims back the main surfaces and builds from trimmed edges. And trimmed edges are always heavier to build from. But here we've also got another issue. So if I try to match this fillet to the design, then I'll need a larger value. So let's try 1200. And now I'm starting to get this skewed edge here. And if I turn on the CVs, you can see that they're starting to get out of line. And I can exaggerate this by making it even larger. And now the CVs go crazy, because the fillet is too large and it's working across these shallow angles. So I'm just going to put that back to the size that I want. And I'll turn off the canvas image. And then I'm going to take a copy and a paste of this fillet and make it template. And you'll see why in a minute. And then if I undo the surface fillet, that will untrim the main surfaces back to their natural edges. And now I can try a different approach, where I create the gap using the extend tool, which will leave me with a natural surface edge, which in general is better to build from. And you can see that I'm using the old fillet as a reference to try to get the same size for the gap. So one way I could create the shape in between is to use a skin to jump across the gap. And that just gives me a simple straight surface. But then I can give that some extra CVs over here, and I'll choose degree 5 because that gives me 1 CV for position, 2 for tangent, and 3 for curvature. And 1, 2, 3 on this side. And then I can use the Align tool, and it's set to G2 like my fillet was. And I want to modify the skin and match it to the roof surface, and then modify this side of the skin and align it to the windscreen. And I had my position influence set to 1. So if I turn on the CVs, then you can see that it's matched the CVs at the edge, and it creates a really nice flow of CVs across the 3 surfaces. So I'll just get rid of the template, and I'll also delete this surface, because that process of using skin followed by a line is combined into a single tool called Freeform Blend. And this is very similar to skin in that it joins one side to the other. And it's got flow control, just like the skin, so I can turn that to edge align. And so far it's done the same as the skin tool. We've got a degree 1 surface and position continuity. But with Freeform Blend, we can now add different continuity on each of the edges. So I'll choose G2 curvature. And now it automatically does what we did manually. It's changed the degree to 5, so it's got the right number of CVs, and it aligns each edge. So you can see from the locator that I've got curvature on both sides. So essentially it combines the skin and align functionality into one tool. Now if I put a cone plot on these edges, that's quite a balanced blend. But that's only because I used the fillet as a guide. So you need to be careful with the Freeform Blend because you are designing the gap. And so it's very easy to create an unbalanced blend. So if I'm using Freeform Blend without a guide fillet, then I'll watch this curvature comb and I'll modify the primary surfaces until I get a balanced result. And I also have some control over these interior CVs like I did with the fillet. And here I'm showing you the shape sliders to do it. But after I made this video, the form factor method has also been added, so it's now consistent across all the tools. But either way, just watch the CVs and the cone plot to design the blend. So the cone plot is a good way of evaluating the blend on the edges. And the continuity locators tell us about the boundary lines. But it's also useful to be able to evaluate the flow across the whole of the surfaces. And one way of seeing that is using the zebra stripes, which are a reflection map that moves as you tumble the model. So with G2 curvature continuity, the black and white bands are matched in width, and they have a smooth transition. And if you see any of these flat edges, then it may just be the tessellation. So you can switch to accurate and maybe tighten up the tessellation tolerance. And now it's displaying as smooth. So if I now go back into the control window and I switch to only tangent continuity, then the stripes are matched in width, but they have an angle change between them. So this looks quite bad, but the zebra stripes exaggerate the problem. So if I go back to the normal shading, it's still looking pretty good. So I use the zebra stripes only for closely analysing the surfaces. And so for position continuity, then the stripes are completely disjointed. So I'll put that back to G2 now, and we can see that we've got a really nice result. So the Freeform Blend is a really flexible tool that works well with construction history. And I'll show you how we can use that for designing the wheel arch blends in the next tutorial.